Hello and welcome to Bigham's Banquet. This is the centrepiece. This is the moment you've all been waiting for as part of the Bigham's Wells Food Festival. And we have chefs up and down the country, and we have all of you wonderful viewers up and down the country. Some of you are singles, some of you are couples, some of you are entire families, all cooking along this evening with, as I said, some of these amazing chefs. Tonight is all about chefs in schools. It is the most fantastic charity seeking to encourage and enable schools across the country to serve great, delicious, nutritious food, and specifically creative school food to get kids and their gastric juices and their imaginations really soaring at a young age. We want to fill children up with good food, but also fill them up and feed their imagination.
We've been supporting the Wells Food Festival, which is the most lovely festival, which always happens this weekend every year. We've been supporting it in a small way for the last 3 years. And then this year we've sort of, thrown our lot in with them a bit more. We've become the headline sponsor of the festival. And we were very, very excited about that and looking forward to it until, of course, this dreadful disease came along and everything changed. And so now we have, I'm glad to say, there's a great sort of virtual festival that's happening. It's not just about this evening. And if you go on to the website, which Rich, you might remind people which website it is, but if you go on to I think it's Wells Food Festival at Bigham's, .bighams.com, you'll be able to go and buy food from about 150 small artisan producers, and it's been really great being able to support those producers in this really difficult time for them. Lots of people have lost their routes to market, and I'm sure you've heard about that from people, William, along the way.
William, we have your word that you're not going to be the harshest critic this evening. We're going to salute everyone's efforts, regardless of possibly the outcome.
I don't have it within me. All I can ever really do is praise. Criticism comes out of me. It has to be drawn out.
Lovely. Okay, well, the virtue of doing this as a virtual cook-along is that Peter, who's sitting in the next room, has a large mute button for when William decides that he wants to deviate from that.
It's time to head to our first chef, Rupert Wilday. Now, Rupert is the head chef for Charlie Bigham's, and he joins us now from the Charlie Bigham's kitchen.
Yeah, so it's more of an hors d'oeuvre. So it's going to be eaten with your knife and fork, but it's something light to get you ready for everything else. Something that will go very nicely with your pre-dinner drink, gin and tonics and white wines. They'd be perfect for it. So we're doing some very quick cured salmon with a fresh pickled pear and some toasted hazelnuts and sourdough. This is the easiest pickle recipe you'll ever come across. So into our diced pear, we're going to add around about a tablespoon of cider vinegar. Straight into the bowl. And I'm going to add some dark soft brown sugar, about half a tablespoon or so. And that's giving us a really nice balance of sort of sweet and sour. The sugar in there and the vinegar, they're also going to start drawing out all those pear juices and start softening them. Make sure that sugar is well distributed. Soft brown sugar can be rather sticky. So you want to add around about 3 times as much sourdough crumb as you've got to your hazelnuts. You can start to hear it sizzling. And this is where you do need to keep it moving in your pan. And all we're doing here is we're toasting this crumb. We're letting it go a little bit crunchy, a little bit chewy, so that when you eat it with the salmon, you've got this really nice contrast of textures. So just keep moving it. It should start smelling like really lovely warm toast, almost like Sunday morning brunch. This knife here that I'm holding is one of my favorites, and it actually came free with a pack of sausages. So, and I think that's the way I've approached my knives. They're knives that I've found, I've got all sorts. I've got some lovely handmade ones, some very expensive ones, and I go to the ones that feel nice in my hand. And I think all chefs will tell you the knife ends up feeling like an extension of your body. And that's what you're looking for when you're looking for chef's knives. You can spend an awful lot of money on a chef's knife. But if it doesn't feel right in your hand, it isn't right.
So, Michelle, you just need to buy a lot more sausages.
You just got to buy some sausages and hope you get a good free knife with it, exactly. And we're going to submerge the salmon in this salty, sugary solution. Put the pieces in individually so they get completely covered. You don't want a couple of pieces sitting by themselves. And this brine is very strong. So it's going to start curing this salmon very quickly. So we've got our salmon looking absolutely splendid. We've got our pears. So what I like to do is just move the pears to one side of the bowl, let the juices drain a little bit to the other side so you can get dryish pear up, and just scatter them. Scatter this over your salmon. And then we've got a little bit of this lovely hazelnut crumb, and it's going to add some crunch and a textural difference. So we're going to have some of this hazelnut crumb over our plate. And there we've got it, a lovely little hors d'oeuvre of quick brine salmon and pickled pears.
Well, Rupert Wilday, I think I can hear all this. I can hear a nation applauding.
Let's
Absolutely wonderful. And, I just wonder how many of you at home have such professional kitchens that you might have a colander.
Lend me one, please.
I think this is where you get your own back on us heckling you, that you get this gorgeous food in front of you, and we get that sort of raw aubergine.
You can have a raw aubergine, yeah.
Can we go to Mark Hicks, the legend that is Mark Hicks, joining us live from Lyme Regis. You got a fantastic starter this evening. A woodland mushroom salad with pancetta and hazelnuts.
So your recipes will be pancetta or bacon cut up. I happen to have some of Peter Hannon's guanciale, which is cured pig's cheek. I always like to have a bit of this in my fridge, and it's perfect for salads with eggs in the morning for breakfast. So what I'm going to do is cook this first. And it's quite fatty, as will be your pancetta. So the idea really is that you use all the fat that comes out of the pancetta or whatever you're using, bacon, and you use that to cook the mushrooms in. So, you know, for this dish, it's only really one pan. You can see a little thing going on here. What I'm going to do now is cook the mushrooms. So one of my local foragers, he brings me all sorts of things. And we've got hedgehog fungus, or pied de mouton in French. We've got parasol mushrooms. So this is how they start off in their first growth, and then they open up into a parasol. A little thing drops with a little hoop on it. It actually does look like a parasol, but these are parasols in their early stages. And these are my friend's shiitake, which he grows on logs in his garden. So I'm going to use in this salad all three.
Mark, should we peel our mushrooms? The big question, should you peel a mushroom?
I think if you bought it from a supermarket, don't peel it. I've never quite understood peeling mushrooms and also peeling asparagus. Why would you peel asparagus?
Well, it's a very good question. Why indeed would anyone peel an asparagus? We've also got a question, Mark, from Carol Conroy, who says, what alternative vegetarian option would give a similar flavour to pancetta? Is there such an ingredient?
It's a very good question, and I think the answer from myself is probably no, because all I'm using is the natural fat. So I would just use a bit more rapeseed oil. If you want to make butter, you can put some butter in as well, which will give you your animal fat, you know, if you're a vegetarian. Or just simply use olive oil or rapeseed oil. So we've got a lid. What I'm going to do is just put a few leaves on the plate first. And then put our mushrooms, hazelnuts and bacon on. So there's lots of flavours in the salad, and it's very seasonal. And I think for mushroom lovers, you know, you can't beat a simple salad like this. It's got the crunch of the nuts and that sort of earthy flavour from the mushrooms. All those different leaves. And I'm only doing this for 2 people tonight.
Can we give Mark a round of applause on behalf of everyone? Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you very much. the genial, quiet, engaging genius of Mark Hicks there.
I've just plated up these lovely mushrooms with pancetta, and looking forward to that too. So a lot of fun. I've had one disaster so far cooking along. I think that might be quite nice to hear about some disasters from other people. I took my eye off the hazelnuts crumb earlier on. Luckily I had a few left. But that nearly had the smoke alarm and everything going off. So that was unfortunate. But I think it'd be quite fun to see if anyone else has had a disaster as, as bad as mine so far, but rescued it. But, what delicious food.
£11,000 so far already. So thank you so much, everyone who has sort of paid their admission this evening, but also a particular thanks to those who have donated more to Chefs in Schools. If you don't know about Chefs in Schools, if this is the first time you've heard of them, we do encourage you to have a look at their fantastic work.
Did you, like Mark Hicks, layer your salad on top of the mushrooms rather than, do you notice Charlie Bigham, he had the mushrooms on one side of the plate, the lettuce on the other? That really tells you about his ordered mind. In contrast to that sort of mad creativity of Mark Hicks, everything sort of piling up, looking like a wonderful enveloping forest of food. We really would love to see how your cooking is going on this evening.
Let's have a look. Can we see some pictures of what people have been sharing so far, please? I think, well, that's looking pretty good. Louise and Claire, thank you so much. I managed to get 3 plates out of that. Lovely, thank you. Let's go to our next one. Oh, this is going to get difficult for us here, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, come on, square plate. We'll have to forgive the square plate on this occasion, the fact that the person seemed to be standing upside down, but it did look very good, that salmon dish. Look at those beets, look at that salmon. Or the autumnal colours of the pear, the hazelnuts.
Lovely, thank you very much. It's lovely to see people wearing their Charlie Bigham's aprons as well.
Yes.
I hope you're enjoying those.
Henry Harris. Henry, welcome to Bigham's Banquet.
Thank you, William. Lovely to see you.
Now, where are you?
I'm actually in Charlie's kitchen, as I had a few logistical issues at home, and so Charlie's very made me welcome. This was an open bottle of Rioja ready for me, which I've drunk.
You are going to cook our fish course, smoked haddock, spinach and parmesan gratin. Take us through this fantastic dish, and then I'm going to suggest a cheeky wine.
Brilliant. So it's a very simple dish, and it's one that kind of started off as a kind of a winter dinner for two. And then it worked out rather nicely in smaller portions as a nice little fish course. So I've got a pan with some butter in, and I've got some baby spinach, which I'm just going to drop in to the pan with a little seasoning of salt, very little because there's the smoked haddock going in there, which is, or a smoked haddock I'm using later rather, some pepper, and then I'm going to give that just a little stir around. And you need to cook the spinach first, so that, because it gives out some liquid, and you need to make sure that you can extract all of that. So it's just quietly sitting there. And then during that moment, you have to decide the dishes you're going to serve it in. I'm serving it for two this evening for Denise and I, so I bought 2 little nice kind of enamelled mini pie dishes. The other ingredients are very straightforward. I've got some smoked haddock, fillets without the skin. I've got creme fraiche, and I've got some parmesan. The one thing about this is it really doesn't matter what you put it in. You just need a pan that is kind of serving dishes that are either small enough. You can do it in ramekins. You could do it, I've got here, if you wanted a slightly more romantic dinner, you could do a sharing dish for 2. Or if you could do it as a main course for a family by doubling the portions of the recipe. Put the smoked haddock in. Nicely. And then the creme fraiche. Now, as someone who loves French cooking, butter and cream have always formed an important part of the kind of my repertoire. Creme fraiche it's not sour cream. It's a natural, it's kind of using a culture, it's a naturally soured cream. So it goes a bit like kind of like a thick spoonable double cream. And if you see the word French on the label, or Isigny or Normandy, areas where it comes from in northern France, you know that you're getting a natural product. There are in some supermarkets, English supermarkets, you'll see creme fraiche, and when you look at the label, it says it's made in England, and it invariably tends to be not naturally soured, so that when you cook with it, it kind of splits and goes grainy. So it is just worth kind of looking for, you can see, just a nice, thick, buttery cream. If you can't get good French creme fraiche, you would be better off using double cream. And you put a nice tablespoonful on top of each one and spread that out. And that, to this point, is ready to go. And if you were cooking this and you were entertaining, you could do this in the morning and having it ready to go and just leave it in the fridge to one side. All we need to do now is I've preheated the grill and put them under the grill, and that's where it takes 5 to 10 minutes. If you cut the smoked haddock thinly and layer it on the spinach, it will take much less time to cook.
What are your memories specifically of Terence Conran? How important to you?
I remember the two things that I remember was that, when Bigham opened, which he was, he designed the whole restaurant and the whole kind of Michelin Michelin tires and everything about it, and food and gastronomy, was that, it was the days of smoking, and Terence was a lover of good big cigars. And he'd had, a good dinner, and he came into the kitchen to talk to Simon and hadn't bothered to put his cigar down. And of course, smoking is forbidden in kitchens. But that didn't worry Terence, and he stood there on the pass talking to Simon, puffing away. And I thought, how lovely to be able to stand in your own restaurant, smoking a good cigar, talking about good food. And then the memory I treasure most of all was that when he came to my restaurant, Racine, I was talking to him afterwards, and he said how lovely it all was and how much he enjoyed it. And he said, this is the restaurant that every provincial French market town should have on the town square, but sadly rarely does anymore. And I thought, as an endorsement of what I do professionally and what I enjoy doing as a cook, I thought, it's that no one really has said anything better. The smoked haddock is cooked through beautifully. You've got this amazing sauce. The only thing that and just check the seasoning. Oh, that's pretty good. Delicious. I'm just going to wander off camera and finish this now. The only thing I would suggest that you would probably add to this is a good crusty, French baguette.
One of the wonderful things about watching you and people like Mark Hicks cook, you give off this air of genial calm. Are you like that in the kitchen, or are you a hard taskmaster, Henry? And be truthful. I
always try and keep calm, but sometimes when the pressure intensifies to a certain level, I have been known to forget my manners with those around me. And occasionally the language becomes a little more florid, blue, as my mother would say. But I try to avoid it, because good food and good cooking comes from a good environment. And I think happy cooks cook far happier food than scared or unsettled cooks.
I feel I'm actually eating for you tonight, William. You're there with just some, with nothing more to eat by the looks of it than some, raw vegetables, while I'm tucking into a delicious banquet. And so I thought it would be good maybe to just have a mouthful for you right now. I've got some bread as recommended by Henry. Doesn't this look delicious? I'm gonna take a mouthful, and then obviously I'm not going to be able to talk for a moment.
I hope he burns you with his mouth with that.
Spoons under there.
Oh, it's sensational, Henry. Absolutely delicious. William, you're missing out big time.
Charlie, you were asking earlier about people to share their disasters, and we have had a couple coming through. I do think, Daisy, thank you for joining, Daisy. I think you might be winning so far. Daisy's dog has eaten all of the venison. So, Charlie, do you think that's your burnt nuts?
Yeah, I think that trumps my burnt nuts.
I would love to see what is everyone doing out there. Supper sorted. The hashtag, it's the big hashtag of the day. It's trending. Rich, what are people saying out there?
Let's look at this. So the pictures on your screen, that's looking pretty well arranged there. Lovely. Thank you.
Can you see who that's by?
We're going to
Slightly out of our eyesight.
Beyond our eyesight, see exactly who. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. That's looking pretty good. That's Mark Hicks's dish, isn't it? Very nice indeed.
I noticed they put the salad underneath the mushrooms. Here's another mushrooms with the salad underneath.
And that's good looking mushrooms. I loved Mark's mushrooms and the variety there. And obviously people have been able to have a good variety where you are as well. Oh, look, William, it's you in the corner.
I can see that's Rachel Davey. There she is, putting on her dressing with us in the background on a beautifully shaped plate. And Mr. Keta Smidge, there he is. They're enjoying themselves. A couple of glasses. Let's say they're having a glass of some of the good stuff.
No evidence of food there, which of course is not particularly an issue.
Maybe a good moment just to say thank you to everyone who's taken part. I think it's I'm enjoying it a lot, and it's lovely and obviously fantastic that we're raising all this money for chefs in schools. So definitely, I'm sure we'll try and find a time to do this again. I'm not quite sure when, but it would be lovely to do it again. And what I hope, I just hope that everyone's having enough time to eat their food as well as cook their food.
Merlin, welcome to Bigham's Banquet.
Good evening, William. Thank you for the introduction.
Now listen, just let's knock this one on the head, shall we? Is Bruton the new Notting Hill?
I can't answer that.
You can just say no. Of course it's
No,
not.
of course not. Of
Bruton
course not.
is
How could you suggest such a thing? We're going to prepare the dessert, but the cake is going to go in the oven when everybody sits down to eat the main course. So I'm going to make the cake batter and the sauce, and I'm going to leave it to you to do the cooking. I'm going to start by making the toffee sauce, which is basically a bit of background on the cake that I'm making. It's loosely based on a recipe for one of my favorite puddings, which is sticky toffee pudding. But I wanted to really celebrate the apple season, which we're basically in the middle of right now. So I've replaced the dried dates with dried apples. So to make the sauce, it's like the easiest sauce in the world. Take double cream, dark brown sugar, and a reasonable amount of butter. And all you do is just chuck everything in the pan together, bring it up to the boil while stirring it. If you don't stir it, because the sugar's already very dark, it might start to caramelize and maybe even burn. So it's important to stir it while it's coming up. So add the sugar and the butter. Start to bring it together. It will seem quite thick at the moment, but we're going to loosen it when we add the eggs. So just keep mixing until you've got a nice paste. The best way to test if the cake's ready is to stick a skewer or a knife in, and if it comes out clean, then the cake is ready. And if it comes out with still cake mixture on it, then you want to cook it for a little bit longer. Because there's so much lovely kind of moist dark brown sugar and fruit in this recipe, there's a fair amount of kind of margin for error in that if it's overcooked a little bit, it won't dry out. So it's best if you're not sure just to put it in for a little bit longer. But I would say if you're doing a loaf mold like this or a cake tin, a minimum of half an hour. And if you're doing the cupcake molds, we're looking at about 15 minutes.
Merlin, I've got a quick question from Jane Pitchford.
Yeah.
Quite specific, quite urgent. 170 degrees normal or fan? She wants to get
I'm using a fan oven. So I've added all 4 eggs to the cake mix. I don't know if you can see this. It's looking like a nice smooth batter. And now I'm going to add the remainder of the self-raising flour. You can add it all in one go. Here we go. And give it a good mix. And the mixture will suddenly start to look a bit more solid, but that's okay because we're now going to let it down with the rest of the fruit. I'm now going to add the apples, which I've soaked in the tea. Do not forget to take the tea bags out because they're not part of the recipe, actually. So I'm going to add the apples. Just give that a nice stir. Also keeping my eye on the sauce. And this is what the batter should look like. Here we go. I'm going to use this amazing 3-year-old Somerset cider brandy from Julian Temperley. I would add it at the end of the sauce being ready, just so you don't cook out all the alcohol and flavor, and you can still sort of taste some of the body of the brandy. So I'm nearly there with the sauce. The cake's ready to go in the oven.
It's Tommy Myers. Tommy, welcome to Bigham's Banquet.
Hello, William.
So nice to see you. Are you at home?
I'm at home. I'm at home in my kitchen, built by my father.
I love the double doors behind you. It looks like there's a restaurant next door.
I know, that was the look I was going for. They're quite sexy, aren't they? chefsandschools.org.uk. So we sat around a table in Oaxaca, funny enough, about 2.5 years ago. Henry Dimbleby, Nicole Pisani, amazing ex-NOP chef, Joanna Weinberg, a few of us, and even the head teacher at Art Franklin, where my kids were at. We were like, how can we make food better in schools? I talked to an amazing head whose chef won an award at the OFM Awards, the Food Micro Awards, many years ago, and he said, the most important thing is you've got to put a chef in the kitchen who really fundamentally understands how food's got to look great, it's got to taste great. They're so excited and passionate about food. And you think that you put one chef into a school kitchen and you can turn around the eating habits of 600 or 650 kids. It just makes sense. So I think the model is brilliant. We've been into about 40 schools now, and the kids love it. And also the chefs become heroes. So food becomes centre of the school, and everyone gets excited about it. And these chefs are these great guys. So what I've done is I've crushed in my pestle and mortar rosemary, juniper, garlic. I've got these amazing, really cool kadodi peppercorns from Vietnam, which are just delicious, and sea salt. So that's been sitting here for about 2 hours, just kind of, getting used to all those flavors. I've got my char grill that's hot. I hope everyone who's cooking has got a hot pan, because that's really important. Now, the garlic you want the skin on, because the skin protects the garlic from burning, which protects its sweetness, and that's going to go into our salsa too. So that is on, and those are going to take about 5-10 minutes. That's just going to go on like that. I've got a little bit of extra, a little venison nugget there, and I can put that cake behind. And now this venison is quite thick. It basically needs a couple of minutes aside. Generally, if you want tough steak, well done, you you just want to feel this flesh between here. And if it's kind of nice and loose on your first finger, that's rare. And then that's kind of, that's very rare, and that's kind of medium rare, and then that's kind of well done. Yeah. And that's how you do it. So the venison is on. Meanwhile, I have got, we're making a mole. So moles are normally incredibly complex sauces. Lots of chilies and spice. Looking pretty good. He's quite thick, this guy, so he's going to need probably 2.5 minutes. That's the flavour. We like really great flavour. That's the blackened thing we like. So this is going to feed 4 of us, and it's just so full of flavour. It's got the cinnamon in, it's got the allspice, which are lovely Mexican spices. We've got those beetroot there, and I haven't sliced the venison yet. Lovely pink slices, which is how we want them. Lovely, lovely, lovely rare venison, and drizzle them with a bit of extra olive oil, because it's like Italy. I think the food of Italy reminds me of the food of Mexico. It's really regional, and the recipes are passed down from the grandmother to the grandchildren, and it's just a really wonderful place. Everyone loves food there, and it's not about how rich you are. The peasant for cooking is just full of flavour and deliciousness.
Here we go. So, 15 minutes timer if you've put it in a cupcake mold, half an hour if it's in a proper cake mold, and then once the timer goes off, we need to check it with a knife or a skewer and see if it's still wet inside, and if not, it's going to need a little bit longer. In the meantime, we've got the sauce here, which is cooked, and that is ready to go. I'm not sure if you can zoom in and have a little look at that. Lovely, nice, glossy, shiny caramelized sauce. And I'm going to take this moment to add a shot or a good dash anyway of lovely cider brandy. Obviously, you can use normal brandy if you don't have cider brandy, or even a nice eau de vie.
That's a lovely the gratin from earlier on. Again, getting points for earthenware. Again,
that was quick. I rather like the previous one, changing the wee-wee. That was very good.
And the pride. Congratulations, that's looking good. Again, fantastic apron modelling. Thank you, everyone. Look at this. These are some fantastic looking dishes. Look at
Sarah Reed there, smoked haddock. Look at that. That looks very rustic. A whole plate there of gratin. There's so many pictures. We're racing on by now.
The only thing I can say is that I wonder if Charlie's going to be disappointed that the successes are so far outnumbering the failures. But look at this, what wonderful results.
But yeah, a big thank you from me to all of our wonderful chefs, and brilliant that we've raised so much money for chefs in schools, and obviously thank you to you. Both in the studio. William, brilliant job, and really good fun. Thank you. Well, we really hope we're going to be sponsoring the Wells Food Festival. It's a really great event. I mean, in a normal year, about 20,000 people come on a Sunday. This year, sadly, that won't be happening. But in future, you know, we really hope it's back next year. And what I think will be interesting, I mean, I hope that next year we'll be able to do an interesting blend of both the physical and for people who live nearby to Wells and can get there, but also I hope we'll have a virtual element to it as well. Indeed, you know, if not before then, maybe another cook along like we've had tonight.
What we'd love you to do, please, is to continue donating to chefs in schools. It might well be that you are now looking across your kitchen worktops to see a whole sea of food, which will feed you through tomorrow as well. Think of that as a bonus, and you may even think about reflecting that bonus in a further donation to Chefs in Schools, again, a fantastic charity doing really important work. So virginmoneygiving.com, search for Hackney School of Food, and you can donate if you would like to do so.
Well, it's a final goodbye from here, our quarry kitchen, and I hope that everybody has a fantastic evening, and in fact that the evening may have only just beginning for many people as they sit down and tuck into their venison with that delicious pudding to come. So thank you very much, and good night from our lovely quarry kitchen.
I hope that all of you have really enjoyed this evening. Rich, it's been fantastic.
Likewise, William, thank you. A pleasure to spend the evening in your company.
Cheers.